let's talk about that in a second. But first, dear guests, can you quickly tell us your name and where you are working at?
Hans Kuhn. I'm a bloody lawyer, but trying to be helpful. I'm practicing in banking, financial sector, and increasingly blockchain law, and I'm quite active in the Swiss Blockchain Federation.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eva Selamlar. I'm heading the Swiss Financial Innovation Desk since roughly 1.5 years, and the Swiss Financial Innovation Desk is the living area of action number 12 of the Digital Finance Report of the Federal Council, with the mandate to make better use of Switzerland's innovation potential. And so we're a pilot, so don't get too used to us. But during those 3 years of the pilot, we really want to make sure that we have the optimal framework conditions, and that wherever we find, #find, hurdles, that they are concierged away, moved away.
Hi everyone, I'm Nicolas from CIF. I'm Deputy Head Capital Markets and Infrastructures. What we are basically doing at CIF is working on the regulatory framework that concern also blockchain DLT. I'm working on some other things in the digital space like AI, open finance, etc. Trying to push innovation, responsible innovation in Switzerland, let's say so.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lutz Meisser. I'm a board member of Bitcoin Suisse. I'm also a board member at the Maxim Kon Association and Actionariat. And I'm an expert at the Swiss Blockchain Federation, and that's how I was involved with the 12-point manifesto.
Thank you, guys. Before we talk about the 12-point manifesto, Eva, you mentioned that you have done a study, a survey on Switzerland and its businesses. Can you give us a little more detail into what you have done and what you have found?
Yes. So maybe just let's take a step back. Switzerland has been the world champion in innovation for 14 consecutive years, according to the World Intellectual Property Organization. And nevertheless, there have been statements since I started my job that we're losing out. We're not as competitive anymore. Then there have also, that has also been seen in certain rankings like Geneva and Zurich. They have lost some ranks in the Global Financial Innovation and Financial Center Index. Then the FinTech study of this very institution, the IWZ HSLU, has identified a stagnation in the FinTech sector, right? 0% growth, while our colleagues in Liechtenstein can rejoice about a 27% growth. And so this was then basically the trigger to really dig deeper and to find out what is happening. And we launched this market survey, not just with regard to digital assets, but much broader, and try to find out what's going on. And so our target group was projects that have evaluated Switzerland as a potential jurisdiction, but then decided against Switzerland, but then also projects that are here, but that are at risk of leaving. So we call it exit interview. And we got back 57 answers, and some answers also said, this answer is an answer on behalf of like 8 projects that I advise, because it's difficult to find those projects. So what we did is we reached out to the associations, we reached out to the law firms that have specialized in financial markets, in financial innovation, FinTech, and so tried to locate those candidates, exit candidates like that. And so the answers were very interesting. In terms of, the rooms for improvement. I would say it's still a great ecosystem. We have a very dense ecosystem. We have specialized lawyers, consultants. We have top-rated universities, R&D going on in those areas. But some things actually need a bit of renovation. If you take that analogy to imagine the Swiss financial sector as a grand hotel, like a 5-star ranked hotel. So, maybe it's time for a little renovation here and there. And one of the main areas was speed in terms of getting licenses, but also in terms of getting maybe a no action letter. So just the actual licensing process. Then another one was lack of clarity in the regulation itself, maybe also certain Swiss finishes. The third point was market size, market access, investor access. I mean, we are here in the middle of Europe, but there are some iron curtains being drawn up, as I would like to cite my colleague Hans here. And then fourth was a mix between, you know, talent, hiring talent, but then also tax. So we are now about to finalize and finalize the evaluation. Also doing some callback interviews, because half of the answers said we're there, we're available for further questions, and then we will make those results. We will make them aware to the respective colleagues within the government, but then also at the given time back to the public.
Thank you. Independent of your research, Hans, we were together, Blockchain Federation, the Bitcoin Association Switzerland, the Crypto Valley Association, and a few more, were working on this 12-point agenda. Can you give us a little bit detail how this started and where this is going to?
Yeah, sure. And indeed, this is a kind of very lucky coincidence. It started independently, but I think we have a very broad overlap with what you have. And the starting point, the trigger point, really was a growing uneasiness about missing out this excellent starting point we had in Switzerland due to proactive early regulatory clarity and a favorable political environment. That's what triggered the creation of the Crypto Valley and this ecosystem you referred to. So really a growing uneasiness, a growing sense of urgency that we need to do something, including by people way outside of the ecosystem. I mean, I'm talking to an 80-year-old banker that is struggling with email, but that clearly understands if we're missing out innovation, if you're missing this change in the way financial services are being produced and distributed, and we're talking about this one, we're not only talking about crypto, then this will have a deep and bad impact on this country as a whole. We then try to put this into words to try to analyze what is actually happens, and I think there are it's two-pronged. On the one hand, it's a growing change in our environment, including the US as an example, with other jurisdictions quickly catching up. And that's per se a good thing. We certainly can't do anything about that. But then there's other homegrown problems that we need to address. And we then tried to identify the most important pain points. And these are these 12 points. And I think what's important to recognize here, there's not one single silver bullet. This is quite a diverse collection of issues on completely different levels, starting on the lack of strategic commitment to innovation, which in our view is the most important point. We need to have again this commitment that we want innovation in this industry, down to minutiae, like for example the length of a licensing procedure, which are real and massive pain point. The feedback we got is that we got it quite good. I mean, there are always diverse views and diverse interests also, but I think this captures quite good these relevant pain points. And the last point I'd like to make, which is also important, this isn't a one-off exercise. This is, in our view, the starting point for an ongoing process, because we are not only calling upon Parliament or the authorities to do stuff. We are not. This is part of what we are calling for, of course, but this is also directed at the industry, at the associations to do their homework, to provide solutions. And we will have next week a first meeting to identify action points for the next 6 months, which on the one hand will be focused on legislation and legislative actions. That's an important point, certainly, but then also try to identify and trigger work streams and projects led by the associations and the industry to make the crypto valley great again. Yeah.
Thank you. The 12-point manifesto was announced roughly 5 weeks ago, and it was covered in multiple different newspapers and media, and I think it got great attention on the market, so that was really impressive. And if you have not read it, look up 12-point manifesto or go to blockchainfederation.ch. There you will have the possibility to read the full document. It's kept high level and really worth your time. Nicholas, you also read the document, and there is a little bit of a few points that we have some critique on the government. But what is your opinion on that? Is it all on the government side, or what? How did you receive this 12-point manifesto, and what were your thoughts?
So I do really like where this discussion is going. So I think the two previous speakers already highlighted. It has to be some kind of common effort, right, to move forward. I think we all have our jobs to do. We are all as well scouting out for how to move forward, how to be better. I think on the government side. And basically, because I'm an economist, so I think what you think about is, first of all, you have to get the basic right. And I think they already spoke about this, but you need to have good education. You need to have security for investments as well, right? In many countries, that's not a given. And well, maybe it's a bit boring in Switzerland, but we have a lot of stability, right? Things sometimes take long, but it's as well, I think, a good sign, or it's something good as well in our uncertain time. So you have to get all this basic right, and I think we are quite good at it. Probably some stuff to improve, but we are already quite good. Then I think the second stuff that struck me as well is we already developed a hub, right? And if you look at economic theory as well, when you get a hub, then it's much more easier to get talents as well, because people can change, from one firm to one firm. It's much easier as well for companies to speak together, to collaborate. And what is really cool as well is that you have then as well experts, like some of them here, association as well that are specialized, and you can really start to talk together. And I think that's something really useful that is established in Switzerland that should go on and that should be reinforced as well. So improving this dialogue, improving as well, way how we do things together, standardize, come up with compliant solutions, etc. And maybe the last point, because you talk about what can CIF do, what can the government do. Well, I think, as a government, you need to be reliable. That's a thing, political stability, etc. You need to have good regulation in place. I think there was the DLT Act that entered into force in 2021. There is surely some stuff to improve, and we are very happy to take inputs as well. Right now, we are working on regulatory changes. It concerns the FinTech license, so we are trying to make it better, but as well trying to leverage it to create a better framework to emit stablecoin in Switzerland, and working on crypto asset service providers as well. And that's something that we'll open a consultation in October this year. So very happy to have a discussion about this when the time is right, and to take feedbacks as well.
Thank you. And it is already a great sign that you are here with us in Rotkreuz on this stage, being open for a dialogue, and so we really appreciate that, and we do hope that there is a potential for us working more closely together, different regulatory bodies, and really look forward. Lucius, what is your thoughts? Like, how do we stand here in the Crypto Valley, and is it all that bad as we discussed?
So Switzerland is generally in a challenging position because we are a small country. So if we do equally well as everyone else, if we have the same law as everyone else, why should anyone come to us? So because we have the smaller market, then the choice would always be the bigger market. So we need to be better than everyone else. We need to be more agile, otherwise we don't win. And traditionally, we had a very interesting combination of stability and innovation. And this looks like a contradiction, because innovation growth requires creative destruction. It requires that the old trees sometime fall and the young trees can grow. And what we traditionally have been doing really well is having stability in the big question, like legal certainty, like strong property rights, like knowing that if you do something, you can rely on the rules that they are still there in 5 years, in 10 years. So you can reliably build something, and at the same time you have the freedom to build, you have the freedom to try out new things. And this is a reflection of a principle-based legal system where there's a few strong principles to manage the big risks and a lot of freedom to take small risks. And we have to restore this balance again, because what we can observe in the market in the past few years, we shifted towards micromanaging the small risks, like with the travel rule, or all these micromanagement, really small detailed rules that when you look at them actually don't make much sense the way they are implemented. And this micromanagement of the small risk came with the manifestation of a big risk, the fall of Credit Suisse. And I think what we need to try, we need to move back to this proven tradition of getting the big risks right, maybe proactively manage them, but be very permissive and almost have laissez-faire with the smaller risks, because that enables innovation.
Thank you. that does deserve an applause. And maybe, Hans, you mentioned that next week we'll start working on really defining the next steps forward. Can you give us already a glance what that could entail and how we could move forward to make Crypto Valley great again?
Well, that's obviously subject to the input and the agreement from the other societies and the associations. I think this, by the way, is important that we work more closely together. That's one of the feedbacks we got from Bern time and again, that there's a cacophony of contradicting positions, and this is crucially important that we align ourselves in the key messages. Otherwise, we will not be understood. So I'm a little bit reluctant to make announcements here before this discussion has taken place. These are basically my ideas, or ideas from the Blockchain Federation. But I think one major work stream will be working together with the SIF for this upcoming legislation. This has happened already. I mean, that was a highly constructive, iterative process that was triggered last fall, where various members of the associations in their personal capacity could provide input, and this input wasn't overly nice, but it was heard and understood, and that's greatly appreciated. So we're looking forward to hearing more. There was another work stream on a specific compliance topic that I think was always also very constructive, extremely useful, and we look forward to seeing the draft. We will work on this one. I think one of the topics we've identified, and I think you also mentioned that, that's a certain lack of precision in our regulation that is resulting in uncertainty. And I think what we will try to do is work very, very thoroughly through this draft and try to identify in the consultation process stuff that needs to be improved. That's hard work, by the way. That's not done by just reading it. That's hard work. But I think if we combine our resources and our know-how, we should be able to provide input, and that's better than after the fact whine about bad laws or bad regulation. So that's one thing. Another topic that is dear to my heart is technical compliance. My personal view is that the way we do compliance today isn't very effective. I mean, we're collecting papers and then are staring at this paper and try to insert some intelligence from this paper. I'm deeply convinced, and by the way, I'm not a compliance guy. I'm a lawyer, but I'm deeply convinced that there are more intelligent ways to do that, and I would like to, or I will propose that we trigger a work stream that thinks about what can be done, and this is something that needs to come from the industry. That's not something we can ask FINMA or Parliament or CIF to come up. We need to try to figure out what this is about. So these are ideas, but I think it's important to have an open process where these ideas are collected, where a decentralized process where we are working through. And by the way, if any one of you has an urgent idea, please let us know. So this isn't a closed loop system. We are inviting everyone who wants to contribute. And by the way, we have currently 3 sponsor organizations. There are 2 more organizations that will officially support this manifesto, and we are inviting any organization to contribute, to work on topics that are important to them. As I mentioned, there are different interests sometimes. I think that's obvious when it comes to stable coins. Not everyone in the industry loves stable coins. So it might not be possible that everyone is supporting our position with respect to stable coins, which is just make it happen. It's so important, just make it happen now. Not everyone is capable of supporting that, but they are capable of supporting other items. So that's the process, and I think that's the direction I'm envisaging.
Thank you, Hans. So key message is come to us and help us.
And then may I just add?
Yes, please.
Do those good things, right? But then also talk about them.
Yeah. Yes.
And then because once, and I'm sure we can sort it out. But then once we have, also talk about it. And I think that is has not always been our strongest suit in Switzerland. Also, if you look at the panel's title, right? We can also learn from others. I mean, they are allowed. That is not in our DNA. We are humble. We are, modest. But maybe sometimes we're just too humble. We are too modest, and we forget also a bit about our strengths. Just as one example, I was with 40 FinTechs in Riyadh last November for the first Swiss-Saudi FinTech forum. And then we got shown around, and then they talked about a program that they have developed. And it had some fancy name, entrepreneurship booster or something like that. And then everyone asked, we should have that too, you get a salary for a couple of months so that you can really devote your time to become an entrepreneur. And then I thought about that, and then if and they're like, we already have that. It's called unemployment insurance, where you do get I think about 3 or 4 months of salary, and you can devote your time to becoming an entrepreneur. We have exactly that, but just no one talks about it, right? This is just one tiny example.
I'm not entirely sure the Labour Office would share your view, but it's an interesting and innovative approach.
No, but seriously, it's one feature under the unemployment insurance scheme which helps you to become an entrepreneur, but no one talks about it. We already have that. Okay, but one other story. Make the Crypto Valley or make the Swiss Financial Innovation Center greater again, because I truly believe it's already great, that it also requires a strong commitment. We have heard that, from everyone, where can we pivot? Where is our unique selling proposition? And we can't get an executive order, as we see that in the States. There have been many. Some of them I've read, and they actually go in the right direction. Some don't, but that's another story. And in the executive order 14178 in January, it also says, everyone should have access to banking services, and I think that also in the digital asset area, it's a huge issue at the moment. I was working for a unicorn in Austria, and I tried to find a bank account for them. That was like a 6-month journey, and that just can't be it, right? Not in Switzerland. That has to be also looked at.
And perfectly right. This is unacceptable. This is completely unacceptable. Again, I don't see a silver bullet. I mean, banks are reacting to the costs that come with opening bank accounts. But as a situation, this is unacceptable. This is missing in the manifesto. For reasons you might envisage, but I fully agree with you. Completely unacceptable.
I hope the next panel, which is consisting of a couple of banks, listens to us and will have something to say why it takes so long to open a bank account. But to summarize, Lucius, would you have a little guidance for us all how we can contribute and help?
Yes, so there's always a dilemma as an entrepreneur or as a financial institution especially. You cannot directly criticize the regulator or regulation, because a client that has a choice between going to 2 different pizzerias and they know one of the pizzerias is always criticizing the food rules and the hygiene rules, then you probably go to the other pizzeria. So that's why it's very important to have organizations like the Crypto Valley Association, the Swiss Blockchain Federation, where you can exchange your concerns. Maybe they are valid, maybe are not valid. You can build a consensus, and then you can produce something like the manifesto, where that's also helpful to SIF, that not everyone goes there, that you get a condensed input with what is the consensus among the industry. And you already know then this is something valid. And of course, everyone is welcome to join these organizations and to contribute. I think for Swiss Blockchain Federation, the only condition more or less is that you are in the blockchain space and that you are based in Switzerland. And then you are free to join and can contribute to in many of the working groups that we have in compliance, taxes, many other concerns with public consultations we take part. So there's a lot of work that can be done, and Switzerland also offers a lot of ways to contribute. Whenever the law changes, whenever an ordinance changes, there's a public consultation, and Nicolas and his colleagues actually read the comments. This might be different in other countries. So this is unique in Switzerland, I think, because if you look, I've seen a consultation in Germany about the AML law. It was 100 pages of text, like paragraph XY is changed like this. We add the word or in between. As it's completely out of context. It was very hard to read. Consultation period 7 days. You have no chance to have a substantiated input. And in Switzerland, we did the blockchain law, for example. I think consultation period was 3 months or so, if I remember correctly, and we could create a substantiated input, and it was read and listened to, and there was a constructive process and discussion. I think this is great, and we should make use of this opportunity.
Thank you, Lucius. And now we have here the QR code that you can scan to actually get to the 12-point manifesto. So please take a look, think about it, and come reach out to us and help us all to achieve the goal. Are there any questions from the audience? Well, if not, maybe I have a quick run through the panel and ask you one question. If at the Crypto Valley conference in 2030, we are sitting back here in this round and you start the sentence with, oh, great that Switzerland did this and this, what would it be? Who wants to start?
Okay, that's a tough one. As I said, it's really a comprehensive approach you need to take, but perhaps the most important one, and you mentioned that, is speed up. We need to speed up compared to many competitors. We are way too slow, and that's true for coming up with policy decisions. And of course, that's our nature, that's our system. The result is that they may be better, but that's also true for licensing. This is also something that needs to speed up, and this is simple project management, that you can do this stuff in 6 months instead of 18 months. That's simple project management, and that's something that is really, really important. Asians or Americans, they simply don't get what we are doing here. They really think we are sleeping or are on vacation all the time.
I think there is a question in the audience.
Yes, thank you. The question is, what do you think has changed between the DLT law was implemented and now? Because what happened in between? Why we noticed that the process of innovation and development slowed down?
May I take this one? FTX, Terra Luna, and Credit Suisse. So I think, and many other things. I think together with the geopolitical uncertainty and just so many further developments, it resulted in an environment where we are very risk focused. And we have to manage uncertainty, we have to manage risk, and then we are just completely absorbed and have a bit less time for innovation, because what happens to innovation, if you're in a survival mode, it just doesn't get the attention it should. So and maybe then just to answer your question before, if I had a magic stick and if we were to forward time by 5 years, I wish that we had KPIs that we, KPIs for everyone, for InnoSwiss, for FINMA, for SIF, for certain associations, for the parliament, whatnot. But having KPIs, maybe they can't be reached, but then if you don't reach them, you have to be accountable, and you then talk about why you cannot reach your KPIs. And I think, and KPIs with regard to innovation, with regard to growth, with regard to fostering prosperity, that would be my wish.
That is a great idea. Quickly, Nicola, any thoughts, good things in 5 years?
So I think we had this moment of euphoria, right, some years ago, and I think now things are slowly building. We heard as well pilots from the SNB, quite some other stuff that are really interesting, and I hope, in 5 years' time, we'll recognize this technology is here to stay, and it's being used as well in a responsible way. I mean, I said that at the beginning, but I think it's really important to position the country as pragmatic but responsible, right? I think we cannot allow to have abuses, to have some bad press as well. Mm-hmm. So I really hope blockchain will start to be used more and more as an infrastructure as well. We'll see really cool stuff on it, and the position of Switzerland will be clear, and will be like the hub for responsible blockchain.
Thank you. Lucius?
Yes, I hope that we get this balance right between the big and the small risks, and I think we have the tradition to get that right, and we can do it.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Again, big